I don't like romance books. I've read a handful of romance books, mostly contemporary romance books, and I just cannot bring myself to actually like them. Let's talk about that. Let's discuss why romance as a genre doesn't tend to work for me. If you asked me why I didn't like romance before this book, I probably would have just said something about romance not being my genre, because I read a handful of romance books, a lot of the popular ones and a few niche ones, and none of them really worked for me. And I really honestly could not put my finger on why the romance genre wasn't working for me. I would read books that had tropes I liked in fanfic and tropes that I liked when they were involved in the subplots of other books, and I just would not care about them in a romance, and I could not tell you why. I can tell you why now, and it's because of this book. I did just read Kiss Her Once for Me by Alison Cochrane. It is about a woman who had a love affair with another woman named Jack last winter. However, this most recent Christmas, the Christmas that is about to happen, she ends up fake engaged to the landlord at the coffee shop she works at in order for him to get his inheritance and for her to have some more financial security. However, she has to spend Christmas with his family, and she learns that he is the older brother of the woman she is still in love with. This book was pretty emblematic, I think, of the issues I have with romance books in a way that pretty much nothing else has a bit. Don't get me wrong, Kiss Her Once for Me is a good book. I had a fun time reading it. It was cute, it was charming. I'm never going to think about it again, though. Just never am I ever going to think about this book again. And it did help me crystallize and actually get to the reason why romance books really just don't work for me. So, this is going to sound a bit weird, given it is a romance novel, but I do think that the fact that it is the romance novels, their main plot is romance, is why they don't work for me. So basically, the romance is the point. You read a romance book for the romance. While they can have subplots and dynamic characters and stuff like that, character work and a plot outside the romance is not the point. It is not the focus. The main plot, the main focus of the story is always going to be the romance. However, when it is just the romance, I tend not to be that interested in it. A lot of the things I found most interesting about that book were the things around the romance that would have had more of a focus in the book if it were not a romance. It deals heavily with themes of abusive and negligent parents. It deals a lot with dysfunctional family dynamics. It deals a lot with finding love despite childhood trauma, and it deals with poverty and being an adult in the world and getting over a fear of failure. And all of these things, they're tied in one, and they play off each other in a really nice way that I found incredibly engaging. But what ended up happening is that the solution to all of these things was romance. It's not that the romance fixed the main character, it was that she wanted to be a better person for romance. That was the thing that made her realize she needed to fix herself, needed to get better, building to a point where she is healed enough to be in this romance. There's no time spent digging in to that. We don't really see her heal. We don't see her grow. What happens is that she is how she is at the beginning. She falls in love, or the relationship comes to a head. They have their third act breakup, and then during that third act breakup, that is when she realizes she needs to change, and then she's better. That happens in the third act. there's no time to really dig into that, to explore it, to explore the actual healing process from that. And it's a romance book. That's not what I'm going to get from it, but that's what I wanted from it. And for what it was cute. But for the type of reader I am, that was not a satisfying reading experience for me, because it was just so good. And then you get to that third act, and it has to all be tied up so quickly. The way I can put it into words best is that within the span of 3 conversations, the main character is a better person. 3 conversations that happen in 1 or 2 days. It kind of just jumps around after those conversations. It shows her better. It doesn't show the process of her getting better. And that did not work for me as a reading experience. Let's get into my next issue. They're too short. I'm sorry, romance books are too short. If there'd been just another 100 pages added to Kiss Her Once for Me, there would have been so much more time to explore and dig into these ideas that are introduced, and we just don't have that time. And I've seen it said a lot that romance books shouldn't be more than 400 pages. I don't know if it's the genre standard. I don't know if that's just something what fans want, but I do know that people don't like it when romance books are more than 400 pages. And that 400-page upper limit means that the focus has to be on the romance. There's less time to diverge from that A plot and have side plots that build the characters, that build up the dynamics around them. And it just leads to this very narrow-minded focus on the couple, on the romance, that I don't vibe with. It's just not satisfactory. It's giving me all of this stuff to chew on and then saying, it doesn't really matter in the end. To be completely frank, if I wanted something that was just romance and smut, I would read erotica. Focus on one of those quick 200-page novellas that you can read in one sitting that are just about romance. There's like a little minor plot, but there's just romance, just smut. I just don't understand the need to have a book be 300 to 400 pages, but still focus on the romance, because you need to add more stuff in, but you're adding more stuff in, and you can't take away from the romance though, so the stuff that is added in other than the romance ends up neglected. And it's making the decision to just not focus on reading romance anymore, trying to figure out what I like, doesn't really matter to me. 4 years of struggling to figure out what I like and not finding anything has been not the greatest, but in the very least, I can tell you why it doesn't work for me anymore, and that is enough closure for me to close that door, at least for the time being. Yeah, I think I'm done with romance books for the foreseeable future.